Hey guys, so this video is important because it's really, why should you compete? It isn't just, stepping on stage, getting shredded, getting a trophy, earning pro status in 2 seconds. It's not that at all. And with the social media fad of everybody wanting to compete these days, I think it's really important to go over a few things on really why you should compete or why you shouldn't.
Because the why is really going to determine if you are going to be successful or not. Honest opinion, it's a little harsh to say this, but I would say at least 80% of people getting into competing, if not more, are to do it for the wrong reasons. And that's why you see so many hashtag road to pros, and then 6 months later, crickets.
That's very true. First off is really knowing your why. Why do you want to compete? Ask yourself this question. Are there outside motivations swaying you to want to do that? Is it just for the look? Do you really like to lift? Really ask yourself why and know your reasoning.
If you're doing it, for an experience with your friend, that's a good reason. If you're doing it because you love training and you want to challenge yourself, that's a good reason. Mm-hmm. If you're doing it for recognition, that's probably not a good reason. And we're going to go over many other reasons as well, but in reality, it's a lot of sacrifice and a lot to give and a lot of time and effort and money for doing it for the wrong reasons.
Yes.
And most people might end up disappointed because the cost of what it takes is not worth it.
Which brings us to the next ultimate question.
Would you be competing if there was no social media and nobody knew you were competing?
Yep.
When
you in the 90s when Joe Schmo was competing and no one knew about it besides his family and friends.
When I first started competing because I loved weight training. I loved the bodybuilding lifestyle. I loved it. And when I first started, there was zero social media, zero. And the only people who knew I was competing was maybe like 5 people in my gym, and that was it, my family. And I still loved it and didn't change my mind on anything, and it was great. I didn't care if anybody knew, because I was doing it for me.
Yeah, it should be something you actually enjoy doing. Yes, it's tough mentally and physically, but it should be something that ultimately you love to do and that it just pushes you. But it brings me to my next thing. Are you mentally ready for it? This isn't just a physical competition. This takes everything to get there.
Competing in bodybuilding is way more mental than it is physical. Physical, of course, is something that needs to be put forth to get the look that your body needs, but the mind is what drives the body. And when you're hungry and you're deprived and your coping skills are gone,
zero,
and you're starving all the time, you're not exactly a happy camper.
Yeah.
And yeah, go ahead.
If you're someone with like high anxiety, that can also put you in a rough spot. Or if you're someone who has prior issues with food, this is something that can bring those back. Or if you don't even have issues with food, it's something that can bring this up. So it's something you really need to look into and like, is that really for you? Is it really healthy for you? We don't want those issues to come back.
Yeah, let's talk about healthy. Now, I will tell you this. Bodybuilding and competing, figure, whatever you have you not, is not in any way, shape, or form healthy.
No.
Not one lick of it. Besides eating vegetables and stuff like that and eating healthy or not eating out, but excessive exercise, deprivation, being antisocial, being deprived for a period of time, followed by binge eating after a show, it is not a healthy process.
And if
no way
you
around
think
it.
you need to compete to get the body you want, you are wrong.
Correct.
Do a photo shoot or something. If you need to strive for a date. Take it slow. If you're in it for health reasons, then do it for health reasons. You don't need to compete.
The reason she said that is because when you have a photo shoot, there's less pressure.
Yeah.
And you don't necessarily need to be as extreme. So you can get in shape and the diet and the training program become more sustainable. If it's more sustainable and it was a manageable getting to that look that you want, you're able to have something, a cushion after the photo shoot. Competing is such a high stress, high pressure, do or die, you have to make it and have that look on stage to do well, that when you're after, you kind of lose control. And people, refer to it post-show competition depression and so forth, but that's what she's referring.
Now, everyone wants to say that this isn't a thing, but genetics do play a role.
Genetics in competing play the biggest role, honestly. And that's what makes it annoying, is you can get somebody, just like in school, we all know those people that went to class, didn't have any books, didn't take any notes, but they got A's, right? Genetics. So in bodybuilding and figure and all these competitions where it's subjective, where you're judging your body, genetics really reign supreme. Where some people can do no cardio, cut out fast food for 3 weeks, get on the show, and win. And not take any drugs. And then somebody else is doing everything else tenfold, and they get last. That's just genetics. Coaches are not magicians. If you have bad genetics, or say you were born a Volkswagen Beetle.
This is your favorite thing ever.
Yeah. You can't take a Volkswagen Beetle and make it a Ferrari. You can make it faster, you can make it better, you can reach your own potential, you could potentially be really good. Some people are born a Ferrari, and therefore there's not much you need to do to make that Ferrari awesome, because it is awesome. And that's something that you need to understand. I'm not refraining from people from competing or striving to be their best. You just need to have a reality check and see things how they are. You can build your body, and the only thing you want to focus on really is being a better version of yourself every show, every week, every month, and so forth. Ferrari Joe Blow who lives next door, it's not your concern.
Stop comparing yourself.
Don't compare yourself.
Go down a bad path. But also keep in mind that any coach out there, there's a lot of coaches out there. There will be coaches that will just take your money, say they got you in shape, put you on stage, and you're probably not even going to be competitive. So you really have to choose wisely there. That's a whole different topic. But
yeah, we'll do a big video on that. Just
know that sometimes be cautious on people's opinions.
And be educated. Oh, opinions. In competing, don't ask anybody's opinion. You ask your coach and somebody you trust. Don't ask. It's like asking 50 chefs on how to cook an apple pie. You're going to get 50 different opinions. Find an opinion that is trustworthy and stay with that one opinion and your coach's opinion. And then once you finish that prep and you didn't like the outcome, then you move on.
Next is environmental. Is your environment optimal? So are you going through big life changes coming up? Are you going through a crazy divorce? Are you going through moving? Are you having a kid? If you're having big life changes, you might want to change your time frame of competing. You want to be settled emotionally, financially, and you also want to have a support system.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like a lot of people will jump into competing during periods of, you know, where they're busy or traveling or stressed, like she just mentioned. Pick a time where it's a slow time at work, where things are good in your life, where you can really focus on it, because it's an awful lot of hard work, time and money to be spent if you can't give it 100%. Because you're going to be upset, and then you're going to be out all the money it takes to compete, and the cost and the effort. Just pick a time where it's a good time.
And also expect that things might arise. So things always change, but so I have those expectations where you're just going to take it day by day. But for the most part, at least set yourself up for success, so that way you can better tackle anything that happens.
Correct.
Lastly, and the most important one, I think.
Oh yeah.
Do you even lift? And I don't say that with a pun intended, because I really mean it. Like, are you actually lifting? Because that plays a role here. You can't just be like, hey, I think I'm going to start going to the gym. I'm going to compete.
Yeah. So, you know, realistically, obviously, genetics play the role in how much time you might need. But I mean, I was training with weights for 4 years before I ever thought about competing. And then genetically, I had a muscular build. And building muscle takes a long time. Obviously, the first year, you can gain a decent amount of muscle naturally. But each year after that, it gets less and less. So if you're one that's not genetically muscular or have a good shape, it might be 2 years, 3 years before you should compete. You don't want to get on stage and, you know, have no muscle, because I will tell you, everybody thinks they have more muscle than they do until all the body fat's gone. Then they realize how little they actually had.
It's very sad.
I was there too, my first show. To give a closing statement to that, my first show, I was 210 pounds. I had abs at 210 pounds. I thought I was going to be on stage at 198 according to my body fat percentage in the body fat calipers. So I did the math. I'm like, I'm going to be on stage at 198 light heavyweight. The coach I helped, he goes like, yeah, that's not going to happen. I'm like, what's this guy talking about? I ended up being on stage at 176. 176 from 210. And I still a little fat to go. If you're not visually peeled, body fat percentage means nothing.
Nothing. Don't even bother.
Because the judge number 4 is not being like, 42, what percent body fat do you have? No, they're looking at you. If you're peeled and you're shredded, doesn't matter what that thing reads.
Nope. But for the most part, you know, really take in all these tips, I guess you can say, if you are considering competing. It might just mean that you need to take some more time to basically carve out a good time in your life to do so, to gain the muscle needed, to make the changes you need, if this is an ultimate goal for you. If it's something, it's just like, oh, I just want to check it off my bucket list. Well, that's a tough one, because I honestly feel like you really, really need to want to do it, because when it gets hard, you're not going to want to stick through it.
If everybody in your gym who doesn't compete says you should compete, you should probably not listen to them. Mm-hmm. If somebody you know who's been competing for years and they done pretty well, and they come up to you and they say you should consider competing, then you should compete. Be careful whose opinion you take.
Who's your opinion then?
There's a lot of smoke blowers.
Well, I hope you took something away from this, guys, and stay tuned for more.